Milo Thorne had never expected to leave Earth, let alone become the linchpin in an interstellar diplomatic crisis. Yet here he was, running his fingers through his jet black hair, exhaustion etched on his face as he completed notes on his final patient of the day. The pediatric sector of Meridian Interspecies Healing Sanctuary hummed with the soft beeping of medical equipment, finally quiet after the chaos of his 12-hour shift. 20 minutes until freedom, 20 minutes until he could return to his small apartment overlooking New Pacific Bay, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. He smiled faintly at the thought. Milo hadn't planned on specializing in xenopediatrics. His path had been set toward traditional human medicine until the accident that took his younger sister 5 years ago. After losing Lena to a rare condition that Earth doctors couldn't diagnose in time, he'd redirected his medical training toward interspecies medicine, driven by the belief that combining knowledge across species could save lives no single medical tradition could. Now the sanctuary served both human children and the occasional extraterrestrial youngster from diplomatic families stationed on Terra. Milo excelled with nervous parents of all species. His gentle hands and resonant voice had a calming effect whether addressing humans with their emotional concerns or the logical, eight-limbed Paxan diplomats with their mathematical approach to childcare. He was storing his data tablet when an urgent alarm reverberated through the corridors. Azure warning lights pulsed along the ceiling in a pattern he'd never seen before. Milo leapt to his feet, heart pounding against his ribs. This wasn't a standard medical alert. It was the emergency docking protocol, something the sanctuary had drilled for, but never actually implemented. "Attention all medical personnel," announced a strained voice over the communication system. "Unscheduled extraterrestrial vessel approaching. Threat assessment in progress. Emergency medical team to docking bay, 7 immediately." Though not assigned to the emergency response team, Milo found himself drawn toward the lift. Something about the alarm's urgency compelled him forward, the same instinct that had often guided his most successful diagnoses. As the doors parted on the docking level, he observed security personnel rushing past, defensive implements ready, faces tense with concentration. "This area is restricted," said a guard, attempting to block his path. Security Chief Darian Reed, a former military officer with a reputation for strict protocol. "I'm a xenopediatric specialist," Milo replied, displaying his identification. "If there are injured extraterrestrial young aboard, you'll need me." Reed hesitated momentarily before nodding. "Stay behind our perimeter, Thorne, and if I give the evacuation order, you run. No heroics." The massive airlock doors of Docking Bay 7 cycled open with a pneumatic hiss. Through reinforced viewports, Milo glimpsed a vessel unlike any he'd encountered before. It was angular and crystalline, with sharp facets that reflected the docking bay lights in prismatic patterns. Its hull seemed to be composed of overlapping plates resembling the exoskeleton of a predatory creature. Warning indicators flashed across security monitors. The ship was heavily armed, bristling with what appeared to be weapon ports along its dorsal ridge. "It's Azurian," whispered Dr. Alara Voss beside him, her eyes wide. As the sanctuary's leading xenobiologist, she recognized the distinctive design. Milo felt a chill course through him. Everyone knew of the Azurians, blue-skinned warriors with flowing crimson hair, feared throughout known space as elite mercenaries and tactical experts. Some called them the living weapons of the galaxy, a species evolved for war whose services commanded astronomical prices from warring factions. Terra had never established direct contact with them. Only accounts from other species who cautioned humans to avoid Azurian territories existed in diplomatic records. The inner airlock doors slid open with deliberate slowness. Security officers raised their weapons. Milo held his breath. A towering figure ducked to enter through the doorway. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with sapphire blue skin that seemed to shimmer with an almost metallic quality under the harsh docking bay lights. Flowing red hair was arranged in thick, rope-like strands, adorned with crystalline beads that clinked softly with each movement. Crystalline growths protruded from its shoulders and spine, shimmering with an inner light that pulsed in a rhythm resembling a heartbeat. The alien's face was angular, with high cheekbones and a strong jawline that might have been considered attractive by human standards if not for the distinctly non-human features. Piercing silver eyes with horizontal pupils scanned the room, pausing on each armed guard with analytical precision. The Azurian wore what appeared to be battle armor of an advanced design, inlaid with crystalline fragments marked by deep scores and burn patterns that spoke of countless conflicts. A translator device pulsed at its throat, synchronizing with the alien's unique vocal patterns. "No weapons drawn," the alien said, voice resonating through the translator with a harmonic quality that seemed to vibrate in Milo's chest. "Come seeking assistance, not conflict." The security chief stepped forward cautiously, his weapon still raised. "State your purpose on Terra and identify yourself." The Azurian warrior did something unexpected. It slowly knelt, lowering its impressive height until it was at eye level with the humans. A position of vulnerability that must have been deeply unnatural for a warrior species. Even Milo, with his limited knowledge of extraterrestrial body language, could interpret this universal gesture. This was a posture of supplication, perhaps even desperation. "I am Guardian Sentinel Corvin of Crystal Cluster Helix, 7th generation battle master of the Northern Harmonic," the alien said with formal precision. "I bring—" It appeared to struggle with the translator, adjusting controls to locate appropriate terminology. "I bring future, bring hope, dying." It reached slowly into a compartment at its side. The guards tensed, fingers hovering over triggers. But what the Azurian withdrew wasn't a weapon. It was a crystalline object about the size of a melon, faceted and pulsing with gentle blue-green light. The alien cradled it with surprising tenderness. Hands that were clearly designed for combat now curved protectively around the delicate object. "Geode," it explained, the translator struggling with the concept. 15 more on vessel, all failing." Milo stepped forward despite himself, medical curiosity overriding caution. "You brought geodes here for medical intervention?" The Azurian's silver eyes fixed on Milo's medical uniform. Something akin to hope flickered in those alien eyes, the first emotional display the warrior had shown. "Yes, bondmate perished in Thorn Dominion assault. Homeworld Crystera attacked. Resonance chambers destroyed. These geodes last of our cluster. Harmonic resonance weakening. Death approaches without intervention." The translator conveyed the flat words, but the alien's body language, the way it sheltered the geode, the subtle vibration of its crystalline growths, the tension in its facial structure, conveyed profound desperation that transcended species barriers. "Why Terra?" asked the security chief, suspicion evident in his voice. "We've never even established formal diplomatic relations with your species. There are more advanced medical facilities in the central systems." The Azurian looked directly at Milo, its gaze intense and evaluating. "Terrans harmonize with young, all young, not just own progeny. We observe galaxy for many cycles. Your medical facilities treat offspring of 27 different species. No other civilization shares this quality." A moment of silence followed as the humans processed this unexpected compliment. "Your world saved Rajian young when plague struck," Corvin continued. "Treated Valachian hatchlings when their atmospheric converters failed. Pattern established. Terrans care for all young." Milo found himself moving closer, medical training overriding caution. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the geode. The security chief began to object, but the Azurian was already carefully transferring the geode to Milo's hands. It was heavier than anticipated and warm, with a subtle vibration emanating from within that reminded him of a purring cat. The surface felt smooth yet somehow responsive, as though recognizing his touch. "Our medical vessel was destroyed in escape," Corvin continued, watching Milo's every movement with intense focus. "Your world closest within sustainable range. Geodes require specific harmonic conditions. Crystal matrix deteriorating. We offer any exchange value, Azurian battle technology, star charts of unexplored regions, rare elements." "Azurian truth?" The security chief appeared uncertain, lowering his weapon slightly. "This exceeds my authority. I must contact Terran Governance Council. Director Imara Way will need to—" "No time," the alien said sharply, a harmonic edge entering its voice that made the translator crackle. "Geodes fade while you debate. Political process is too slow. Life ebbs." Milo was examining the geode, noting discoloration across its crystalline surface and microfractures forming along the facet edges. His medical scanner displayed signs of destabilizing patterns within, energy signatures weakening in an irregular pattern. They need harmonic stabilization, he said, medical instincts taking over. The crystalline matrix is deteriorating from the outer layers inward. I would need to conduct additional analysis, but if these are comparable to crystalline life forms we've encountered, they're exhibiting signs of resonance degradation. He looked up at Dr. Voss. Remember that Centaurian crystal pod species we treated last year? Similar readings, but far more complex internal structure. The Azurian turned its full attention to Milo. You help? You understand crystal life? Before anyone could intervene, Milo nodded. I'll try. Let's transfer all geodes to the pediatric sector. We have resonance chambers designed for various species that might be adaptable. Thorne, you can't simply... The security chief began. With respect, Chief Reed, Milo interrupted, meeting the man's gaze steadily. We're a medical facility. These are failing embryonic life forms regardless of species. We took an oath to preserve life, and I intend to honor it. Reed's jaw tightened, but after a moment, he nodded curtly. Fine, but I'm doubling security, and this request goes up the chain immediately. Director Wei will have my badge if I don't follow protocol. Understood, Milo agreed, already mentally cataloging what equipment they'd need. Have your team help transport the remaining geodes. Dr. Voss will need the specialized resonance chambers prepped immediately. As they organized the response, Milo couldn't help but notice how Corvin watched him, with something that, despite the alien features, looked remarkably like hope. 3 hours later, Milo and Dr. Ilara Voss had established 16 Azurian geodes in the most advanced resonance chambers available in the Sanctuary's research wing. Corvin hovered nearby, monitoring every adjustment with intense focus. The geodes had been scanned, measured, and placed in carefully controlled environments designed to maintain their structural integrity. The fundamental challenge, Ilara explained, studying diagnostic displays that showed cascading energy patterns, is that we have insufficient data regarding Azurian physiology and crystalline developmental processes. The geodes maintain minimal resonance, but something essential is absent. It's like they're missing a catalyst or activating frequency. She brushed her dark hair away from her face, fatigue evident in her movements after hours of intense work. We're keeping them stable, but they're not thriving. At this rate, they could survive perhaps 3 weeks, but they won't develop properly. Corvin approached the chamber containing the geodes showing the most deterioration. In natural nest, progenitor maintains harmonic connection, voice provides resonance pattern, vibration sustains development, creates imprint bond that guides growth. The Azurian placed a hand against the chamber wall, close to the geode. All Azurians connected through resonance web. Crystara, our homeworld, maintained planetary harmonic field that nurtured young. Now destroyed by Thorn Dominion weapons that shattered crystal core? Milo contemplated this, the pieces clicking together in his mind. Harmonic connection? Like a song? He turned to Dr. Voss. Is it possible they require auditory resonance patterns? A specific frequency range that stimulates development? Ilara conducted another scan, adjusting parameters based on this new insight. There's a crystalline matrix throughout the geode structure with properties similar to piezoelectric materials. It could potentially serve as a resonance amplifier, responding to specific frequencies and converting them to internal energy patterns. Milo made a decision that would change the course of interstellar relations, though he couldn't have known it then. He opened a chamber and carefully lifted one of the geodes, feeling its weight and warmth in his hands. I'm going to attempt something. He held the geode carefully against his chest and began to hum softly, a simple melody his mother had sung when he was a child, a lullaby that had comforted him after nightmares and years later as he sat by his sister's hospital bed. At first, nothing happened, but after several minutes, his scanner indicated a change. Look at this, Milo said excitedly. The internal resonance patterns are stabilizing. The deterioration is slowing. Ilara checked her instruments, eyes widening. You're right. The crystalline matrix is absorbing acoustic energy from your voice and converting it into internal harmonic patterns. The frequency range of human singing voices appears to be unexpectedly compatible with their resonance requirements. She adjusted her scanner. It's not just the frequency. There's something about the emotional component too. The patterns change based on the feeling you project while singing. Corvin observed with an intensity that would have been unsettling if not for the context. What does this signify? It means, Milo said, still holding the geode carefully and continuing his gentle humming between sentences, that these geodes might need what many Terran species require: vocal resonance patterns, harmonic connection, emotional engagement. They need to be sung to with genuine care. The Azurian warrior looked at the human nurse holding the geode with gentle hands, an expression of profound realization crossing its alien features. On Kristara, crystal singers were highest caste, created life resonance for entire world, all lost in Thorn attack. Corvin's voice through the translator sounded different now, infused with something akin to wonder. Now we understand why scanners showed Terran compatibility. Your species possesses natural crystal song ability without training. Throughout known space, we are feared as deadliest tacticians. All fear Azurians. No species would permit us proximity to their territories. They're young. He made a gesture that seemed almost reverent toward Milo. But you Terrans will cradle our geodes and offer your voice song to sustain them. Without question, without fear. Milo smiled slightly. That's what we do. We care for children. Any children who need us. It's not complicated. Corvin made a complex gesture that Milo couldn't interpret, crystal growths flashing with internal light in a sequence. Then Azurians selected correctly. We will honor this debt until the stars fade. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of Director Imara Wei, flanked by security officers and diplomatic personnel. Her sharp eyes took in the scene, the resonance chambers, the Azurian warrior, and Milo holding a geode against his chest while humming softly. Dr. Thorne, she said, her voice measured but with an undercurrent of tension, I believe you have quite a lot to explain. As news spread throughout the facility that the feared Azurians had brought their geodes to Terra, Milo organized a volunteer rotation despite the political storm brewing around them. Director Wei had reluctantly authorized continued medical care while diplomatic channels were established, recognizing that the potential death of the last members of an Azurian clan could have severe repercussions. Each geode would need hours of human vocalization daily. Milo didn't fully comprehend the interstellar implications of what was happening, but he recognized that across the vast differences of species and stars, some things remained fundamental. Young lives required protection, harmonic stability, and care, and somehow the most formidable warriors in the galaxy had recognized this truth in humanity. What began as a medical emergency soon expanded into something more. News traveled swiftly through Meridian Interspecies, Healing Sanctuary, about the Azurian geodes. By morning, a team of volunteers had assembled from across the facility, nurses, technicians, even administrative staff. Each geode needed direct human vocalization for at least 5 hours daily to maintain harmonic stability, requiring a complex rotation schedule that Milo developed with the help of Sarah Nash, the sanctuary's scheduling coordinator. I never thought I'd be organizing singing sessions for alien crystals, Seren remarked, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface as she matched volunteer time slots with geode needs. She was a petite woman with auburn hair and an efficiency that had made her legendary among the staff. But I've seen stranger things in my 10 years here. Thanks for organizing this, Milo said, grateful for her practical approach amidst the growing chaos. The diplomats are still debating implications, but these geodes can't wait for bureaucracy to make decisions. Seren's expression softened. After what you did for my nephew in the Centaurian plague outbreak, I'd organize singing for 1,000 alien crystals. Just tell me what they need. Dr. Ilara Voss hadn't departed the laboratory in 24 hours. She studied samples from the geode matrices, compared them with the limited data Terra possessed on Azurian biology, and conducted test after test, building the first comprehensive human understanding of Azurian physiology. I believe I've identified the mechanism, she said when Milo brought her stimulant beverage to combat her exhaustion. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, but excitement animated her features. The geodes respond to something in our vocal patterns, specifically the resonant frequencies between 250 and 340 hertz, which happens to include much of the human singing range. She displayed a holographic model showing the crystalline structure of the geodes. When we sing or hum to them, the frequency and resonance of our voices create a harmonic reaction with their crystalline matrix. But there's more. The emotional component is critical. The matrix responds differently to songs performed with genuine care versus mechanical reproduction. She tapped a control, showing comparative readings. I tried a synthesized voice at identical frequencies. Minimal response. But when Nurse Javier sang the same melody with emotional engagement, the resonance increased threefold. Milo nodded, observing the row of volunteers seated in comfortable chairs, each singing softly to a geode cradled against their chest. So we're essentially substitute Azurian crystal singers. Precisely, Alara said. And that's what makes this so fascinating from an evolutionary standpoint. Of all the species in the galaxy they could have approached for assistance, their physiology is most compatible with humans, a species they've never had diplomatic contact with. It's either the most remarkable coincidence in xenobiology, or what? Milo prompted when she trailed off. Or there's some ancient connection between our species that we're completely unaware of, she finished. Something that created parallel evolutionary paths in our vocal structures despite developing on planets light years apart. Corvin had remained at the medical center, sometimes standing sentinel by the geodes, other times observing the humans with curious silver eyes. 4 additional Azurians had arrived from their vessel, all warriors bearing battle scars and weapons they reluctantly surrendered at security checkpoints. The tallest among them, introduced as Battlemaster Rexar, had initially objected to surrendering his ceremonial crystal blade until Corvin had spoken to him in their harmonic language. Whatever was said had caused Rexar's aggressive posture to soften, and he had relinquished the weapon with a formal gesture toward Chief Reed. Terra's government had been thrown into turmoil. The unexpected appearance of the galaxy's most feared tactical species requesting medical assistance was unprecedented. The Terran Governance Council had convened an emergency session with diplomatic, military, and scientific representatives debating the implications well into the night. By afternoon the following day, a full delegation arrived at the medical center. Officials in formal attire filed into the conference chamber where Corvin waited with Milo and Alara. Guardian Sentinel Corvin, began Director Wei, who had been appointed spokesperson for this historic first contact. We need to understand your intentions on Terra. Your species has never sought diplomatic relations previously, despite multiple overtures from our ambassadors. The Azurian stood tall, towering over everyone in the room. Not here for diplomacy, here for geodes, for future. Diplomatic protocols irrelevant when life hangs in balance? Yes, but your presence carries serious implications, Director Wei continued, her voice remaining measured despite the tension. Many species in the galactic community have cautioned us about Azurians. The Galatian Collective claims your kind are dangerous mercenaries who've participated in conflicts across 3 sectors. The Rift Alliance considers your species a destabilizing force in the galactic order. Truth, Corvin said simply, crystals pulsing along his spine. We are warriors. We fight. We survive. This is known. Professor Marcus Chen, Terra's leading xenohistorian, leaned forward. Yet historical records suggest the Azurians weren't always mercenaries. There are references in ancient Galatian texts to the crystal harmonies of Azurian culture, achievements in art and science that were greatly admired. What changed? Corvin went still, silver eyes focusing on Chen with new interest. You know old histories, rare knowledge. He seemed to consider his words carefully before continuing. Thorn Dominion War, 5 centuries past. Crystal cities destroyed, harmonic culture shattered. Survivors became warriors to preserve what remained. Easier to sell combat skills than explain lost arts no one remembers. And these geodes? Director Wei asked. What is their significance to your culture's restoration? Last pure bloodline of Crystal Singer caste, Corvin explained. Most Azurians now warrior bred for generations. These geodes carry ancient genetic memory of harmonics. Could restore lost knowledge if they survive. Then why entrust us with something so precious? asked Admiral Javier Cruz, representing Terra's defense forces. Why not seek a more advanced medical facility in the central systems where your own kind could provide care? Corvin emitted a soft harmonic tone, revealing gleaming crystalline teeth in what might have been a grimace. Advanced systems controlled by Galatians, rifters, others who have profited from Azurian decline, who prefer us scattered as mercenaries, not united by culture. He locked eyes with Admiral Cruz. Those who fear us would destroy geodes, claim accident. Many would pay to ensure Azurians remain as we are. Weapons for hire, not civilization reborn. And why believe we'd be different? Cruz pressed. Corvin turned his gaze to Milo. Terrans different. Observed your kind for many cycles through covert means. You nurture vulnerable ones without calculation of advantage. You protect young, even young, not of your own species, even when no diplomatic benefit exists. He gestured toward a holographic display showing the sanctuary's historical treatment records. 17 instances in past decade, treating enemy young during conflicts. No other species demonstrates this pattern. Milo stepped forward. I can confirm the geodes are responding positively to our care. They're stabilizing, and we're developing protocols to support their development cycle. This still doesn't explain why you've selected Terra, Director Wei pressed. We're relatively new to the interstellar community. Surely other options existed with advanced medical technology? Ilara cleared her throat. Actually, I may have discovered something relevant. I've been analyzing the limited data we have on Azurian biology. She displayed a holographic chart. Their species produces a harmonic resonance during nurturing that's remarkably similar to human vocal patterns. Acoustically, we may be one of the closest matches in the galaxy. She displayed a comparison of waveforms. The lullabies we sing to human children produce almost identical harmonic patterns to what fragments of Azurian crystal songs we've been able to reconstruct from historical records. It's as though our species evolved parallel forms of nurturing vocalizations despite developing on planets light years apart. Corvin made a gesture of confirmation, crystalline growths briefly pulsing with light. Intelligent female speaks truth. Terran voice patterns compatible with geode needs. But there is more. He appeared to struggle with the translator, adjusting controls to locate better terminology. Terran hearts also compatible. You value young ones without reservation. His silver eyes swept the room. All species claim to value young, but actions reveal truth. Terrans demonstrate through actions, not merely words. You maintain healing centers exclusively for young. You expend resources on vulnerable ones others would abandon, even enemies young. An uncomfortable silence descended over the room as the officials absorbed these words. How many Azurians remain in the galaxy? Milo asked quietly, voicing the question that had been troubling him since Corvin's arrival. Corvin's posture shifted, crystalline growths dimming slightly. 3 million, perhaps 4? Once we numbered billions? Homeworld attacked last cycle. Major clusters decimated. Crystal cities reduced to fragments. These geodes, he gestured toward the ward, from final bonding pair of crystal singer lineage in our clan. My bondmate Lyra perished defending them. You're endangered, Ilara realized aloud. As culture, yes. As genetic line of true crystal singers, critically so. The single word carried profound significance. Director Wei's expression softened slightly. I see. And these geodes are critical to your species' cultural restoration. To our clan's survival as more than warriors, Corvin corrected. Other clans dispersed throughout galaxy. Most function as contracted warriors now. No home, no harmony, no purpose beyond combat. The implications gradually dawned on everyone present. Terra was now safeguarding the future of an Azurian clan's cultural identity. A clan of the most feared warriors in known space might regain their lost heritage through human intervention. If we assist you, Director Wei said carefully, what does that mean for Terra? Would this establish an alliance? Corvin stood straighter, crystalline growth brightening with internal light. Azurians honor debts. If Terrans save our young, we are bound by most ancient laws. Would consider Terrans as cluster kin, protected as our own. This bond transcends political alliances. It is blood debt, soul debt. Milo noticed the military officials exchanging glances. Having the galaxy's deadliest tactical experts consider Terra under their protection would transform everything about humanity's position in interstellar politics. Professor Chen leaned forward, eyes bright with excitement. This could be an unprecedented opportunity to learn about Azurian culture, particularly the crystal singer traditions that have been lost to history. The council will need to deliberate, Director Wei said. In the meantime, medical care for the geodes will continue under secure protocols. We'll formalize our response within 24 hours. As the officials filed out, Milo noticed Admiral Cruz lingering behind, his expression troubled. Once the others had left, he approached Milo directly. "Do you realize what you've done, Doctor?" he asked quietly. "Saved 16 lives," Milo replied steadily. "You've potentially dragged Earth into a centuries-old interstellar conflict," Cruz countered. "The Thorn Dominion and Galatian Collective won't be pleased to learn we're helping restore Azurian crystal singer culture. There will be consequences. With respect, Admiral, I'm a doctor. My concern is for my patients, not interstellar politics." Cruz's stern expression softened slightly. "Your sister would be proud of you, Thorn. She always said you'd change the world someday. I just don't think she imagined it would be the entire galactic political landscape." He shook his head. "Be careful. Not everyone on Earth will support this intervention. There are factions who would prefer we remain neutral in interstellar affairs." Milo watched him go, surprised that the Admiral knew about Lena. The reminder of his sister strengthened his resolve. She had died because medical knowledge had been siloed, because different traditions hadn't shared what they knew. He wouldn't let these geodes suffer the same fate. Later that evening, after the officials had departed to debate implications, Milo checked on the geodes. The volunteers had rotated shifts, with new people taking their places. A nurse named Seren Ash sat singing softly to one of the geodes, her voice a gentle alto weaving through an old folk melody from her hometown in New Zealand. "It resonated," she said excitedly when Milo approached. "Not just the usual harmonic response. I felt something shift inside, like it was answering me." Milo checked the monitors. The harmonic patterns are strengthening across all of them. The crystalline matrix is showing signs of growth rather than just stabilization. Whatever we're doing, it's working. Corvin appeared beside them, moving with surprising silence for such a large being. "First signs of awakening." "Good. How long until they emerge?" Milo asked. "Perhaps 14 Terran days," Corvin replied. "Difficult to predict. Conditions different from traditional emergence chambers on Crystara, but signs promising." Saren looked up at the towering alien. "What happens when they emerge? Will they require special sustenance? Care?" "Young need voice song, harmonic resonance, protection," Corvin explained. "Will bond with those who sing at emergence moment. Critical period for development of crystal structures and neural pathways." Milo realized what that meant. "They'll imprint on humans." Corvin nodded, crystalline growth shimmering. "Yes, we'll recognize Terrans as cluster parents. This bond endures full lifetime, is sacred in Azurian culture, transcends biological lineage." The weight of that statement settled over Milo. These weren't merely patients they were saving. They were creating an enduring connection between two species that would last generations. "When information spreads about this," Milo said quietly, "how will other species respond, particularly those who have conflicts with Azurians?" Corvin's silver eyes narrowed, horizontal pupils contracting. "Some will fear, some will not comprehend. Azurians have many adversaries, some justified, some born of misunderstanding. Those adversaries may become Terran's adversaries as well." "Is that a warning?" Saren asked, instinctively cradling the geode closer. "Is truth," Corvin replied, "but also truth that any who threaten Terrans now will face Azurian fury." He placed a crystalline-tipped hand gently on the geode Saren held. "You save our future, we not forget." His voice lowered, harmonics shifting to a more formal register. "In ancient times when crystal singer culture still flourished, there was sacred saying, 'Those who nurture the resonance chambers of our young become architects of our future.' Your people will be remembered thus in Azurian history if we survive to write it." Milo observed the interaction with a mixture of hope and concern. In just 2 days, everything had changed. Humanity had unwittingly stepped onto a vastly larger galactic stage by doing what came naturally, helping those in need. Outside the medical center, news crews had gathered. The story of deadly alien warriors bringing their geodes to Terra was spreading worldwide and beyond. Terra, across the stars. Other species were surely noting this unprecedented development. The Azurians, the deadliest tacticians in the galaxy, had chosen humans to save their young. No one yet understood all the consequences this choice would bring. 2 weeks after the Azurians arrived on Terra, news had spread across the galaxy. Meridian Interspecies Healing Sanctuary found itself at the center of a diplomatic maelstrom. Representatives from a dozen alien species requested meetings, some curious, others concerned about the implications of human-Azurian cooperation. Meanwhile, tensions were growing on Earth itself. While many humans supported helping the endangered Azurian geodes on humanitarian grounds, a vocal movement called Terra First had begun organizing protests against alien entanglements. They argued that Earth was inviting potential conflict by aligning with a species as controversial as the Azurians. Liaison Toby Nix had never expected his first assignment as a diplomatic officer would be so significant. Fresh from training, he was assigned to manage communications between Terra's government and the various alien representatives now orbiting the planet. The Galatians want assurances that Terra isn't forming a military alliance with the Azurians, Tovey reported to Director Wei during their morning briefing in the sanctuary's secure conference room. And the Thorn Dominion has repositioned 4 warships at the edge of our solar system, calling it a precautionary deployment. Director Wei sighed, massaging her temples. Inform the Galatians we're providing medical assistance, not establishing military pacts. As for the Thorn Dominion, advise them that any unauthorized entry into our system will be considered hostile action. Yes, Director. Tovey hesitated, adjusting his formal diplomatic uniform. There's something else. A representative from the Assembly of Harmonized Spheres is requesting a private consultation. They decline to state their purpose, but they rarely involve themselves in matters they consider evolutionary inevitabilities. Wei frowned. The Assembly rarely involves itself in the affairs of developing worlds like ours. They're supposed to be neutral observers of galactic development, not participants. Schedule the meeting for tomorrow. I want Admiral Cruz and Professor Chen present as well. There's one more item, Tovey added reluctantly. The Terra First movement has filed a legal injunction to halt the Azurian medical program. They're citing interstellar neutrality protocols and potential security risks. The hearing is scheduled for next week. Wei's expression hardened. Inform legal to prepare our response. We'll argue on medical necessity and ethical obligation grounds. The Sanctuary Charter specifically authorizes care for all sentient species, regardless of political considerations. Meanwhile, in the Sanctuary's resonance chamber, history was unfolding. The first Azurian geode had begun its emergence process. The crystalline surface had developed a luminous glow, and fine fracture lines were spreading across its facets in geometric patterns. Nurse Saren Ash had been singing to it when the process began, a traditional Maori lullaby passed down through generations of her family. Following Corvin's instructions, she maintained her song as the young Azurian struggled to break free of its crystalline matrix. Milo watched in amazement as a small blue hand pushed through the crystalline surface, shattering it into fragments that dissolved into luminous dust. The infant Azurian emerged slowly, its movements deliberate despite its newborn state. It was approximately the size of a human newborn, with soft azure skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Large silver eyes blinked open, immediately focusing on Serene with unexpected clarity for a newborn. Delicate crystalline nubs protruded from its shoulders, and wisps of copper-red hair crowned its head. Unlike the angular features of adult Azurians, the infant's face was rounder, with an expression of calm curiosity as it studied Seren. Maintain the harmonic pattern, Corvin instructed from nearby, his typically harsh voice now surprisingly gentle. Let young ones synchronize with your voice first, critical for neural crystalline formation. Seren carefully adjusted her position, cradling the emerging Azurian while continuing her song. The baby Azurian gazed up at her with unwavering attention, then emitted a soft harmonic tone that complemented her melody, finding harmonics that enrich the simple lullaby with unexpected complexity. It's beautiful, Siren whispered between verses. He, corrected Corvin. Kieran, male offspring, strong harmonics. Name means first light after darkness in ancestral tongue. The infant reached out with small blue hands, touching Siren's face curiously. Then it did something unexpected. It produced a resonant purring sound and nestled against her neck, its crystalline growths emitting a soft glow that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Is that normal? Milo asked, surprised by the affectionate behavior. Adult Azurians were not known for such displays. Yes, Corvin said, a new cadence entering his voice. Young ones trust completely, seek harmony, connection. Later, when mature, traditional training develops warriors, suppresses emotional resonance, crystal growths harden, lose receptivity. There was something like melancholy in his tone. This is why geodes brought to Terrans. Your kind maintains harmony longer. Perhaps young ones can preserve connection even as they mature, if raised with Terran influence. Dr. Alara Voss was recording everything, documenting the emergence process and the young Azurian's behavior. The imprinting is occurring precisely as you described, she said to Corvin. He's bonding with Siren at both a physiological and resonant level. The crystalline formations are adapting to her specific vocal pattern. She is cluster parent now, Corvin confirmed. Bond for lifetime. Sacred connection in Azurian culture. Siren looked up in surprise. What does that mean exactly? I'm not sure I understand the implications. Means young Kieran will recognize your voice pattern, your resonance forever. Will feel your emotions across great distances when bond matures. Will protect you when mature. Is sacred bond in Azurian ways deeper than what you call family? The implications of this statement were interrupted as alarms sounded throughout the facility. Security breach, announced the overhead system. Unknown entities attempting to access pediatric sector. Security protocols engaged. Corvin moved with shocking speed, revealing a concealed weapon no one knew he possessed. Protect emergence chamber, he snarled, all traces of gentleness vanishing as he positioned himself between the door and the resonance chambers. Milo activated the emergency lockdown protocols for the ward. Steel shutters descended over the viewports, and doors sealed with additional barriers. Siren retreated to a corner with the newly emerged Azurian, who sensed the tension and had gone silent. Silver eyes watchful. Through the security monitors, they could see figures in unmarked combat suits moving through the corridors. They carried weapons and moved with military precision. Thorn Dominion infiltrators, Corvin growled, recognizing their movements. I know those tactical patterns. Thorn Special Operations Division. Elite killers. Come to destroy geodes. Eliminate Azurian Crystal Singer lineage forever. The three other adult Azurians who had remained on Terra joined Corvin, forming a defensive perimeter in front of the humans and geodes. The air in the chamber felt charged with tension as the Azurians' crystal formations brightened with combat energy. They're attempting to override the security protocols, Milo said, watching the door panel's indicators flashing in warning patterns. Outside in the diplomatic wing, Liaison Tovi Nix was escorting a visitor when the alarm sounded. The visitor, a tall green-skinned alien with 4 arms and an elaborate formal robe decorated with astronomical symbols, paused. What occurrence transpires? Asked the alien in a melodious voice that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies simultaneously. Security breach, Tovi answered, checking his communication device. His eyes widened at the message there. We need to reach safety immediately. The alien ambassador, Vril of the Assembly of Harmonized Spheres, shook his head. No, convey me to the Azurian ward immediately. Tovi hesitated. Sir, that's where the breach is occurring. Precisely why we must proceed, Vril replied, producing a small device from his robes that emitted a soft pulsing light. This is not unanticipated. The Thorn Dominion has always feared Azurian resurgence. They would rather eliminate their young than witness a cultural renaissance that might unite scattered Azurian mercenaries. Understanding dawned on Tovi. You knew this would happen. The Assembly observes patterns across the galaxy, Vril said, his 4 hands moving in complex gestures that seemed to calculate invisible equations. When we learned of the Azurian geodes on Terra, we calculated a 97.3% probability of Thorn intervention within the first emergence cycle. That is why I arrived precisely when I did. Vril's green face took on a more serious expression. The Assembly typically observes without intervention, but certain moments in galactic evolution require careful attention. This is one such nexus point. Back in the ward, the door security system was failing. Corvin and the other adult Azurians stood ready, weapons aimed. Milo, Alera, and the other humans tried to protect the geodes and the single emerged infant. If barrier fails, Corvin told Milo, you retreat with geodes through secondary exit. We will contain attackers. Before Milo could respond, the security panel emitted a final tone, and the doors began to slide open. The Azurians tensed, prepared to fight to the death. But instead of armed attackers, a single figure stepped through, Ambassador Vril, with Toby Nix behind him. Cease hostilities, Vril said, raising his forearms in a peaceful gesture. The infiltrators have been neutralized. Corvin didn't lower his weapon. Assembly rarely engages in direct intervention. Why assist now, after centuries of Azurian decline? Vril approached slowly, his movements graceful despite his unusual anatomy. The Assembly has observed humanity with profound interest since your species achieved interstellar capability. Your species' decision to aid the Azurians confirms something we have long postulated. He turned to look at Seren holding the Azurian infant, who was watching the proceedings with alert silver eyes. A species feared for their tactical prowess now bonded to a species valued for their harmonic compassion. This creates unprecedented possibilities for galactic evolution. The Thorn infiltrators? Corvin demanded. Contained by Assembly peacekeepers, Vril answered. This incursion will not be the last. The Thorn Dominion views any Azurian resurgence as a threat to their expansion plans in the Cygnus Arm, particularly a resurgence of Crystal Singer culture, which once rivaled their own gravitational manipulation technology. Toby looked at the humans cradling Azurian geodes. This isn't just about medical assistance anymore, is it? We're part of something more significant. Vril nodded solemnly, his forearms forming a geometric pattern that seemed to represent cosmic forces. Humans have unknowingly altered the galactic equilibrium through this single act of compassion. The Azurians were declining, scattered throughout the stars as mercenaries without purpose. Now they have reason to unite, protecting their young and the humans who nurture them. His voice took on a more formal quality. The Assembly has calculated 17 potential futures stemming from this moment. In 12 of them, a new balance emerges that benefits galactic stability. In 3, conflict expands but eventually resolves. In only 2 does catastrophe result. And you're helping tilt the probabilities toward the positive outcomes, Milo realized. We observe, Vril corrected. We calculate. We occasionally adjust small variables at critical junctures. The fundamental choices remain with the primary actors. As if confirming his words, Seren's communication device chimed. She shifted the infant to check it, eyes widening at the message. There are reports of Azurian vessels entering the solar system, she said. Dozens of them. They're responding to news of the emergence. Corvin made a sound that might have been laughter. Azurians come. Cluster kin call answered. Word spreads faster than expected. Milo realized that Terra now stood at a crossroads. The deadliest warriors in the galaxy were converging on their planet, not as invaders, but as protectors of their future. And at the center of it all were ordinary humans who had simply done what came naturally, caring for young ones who needed help. The next few days will be critical, Vril said, his multifaceted eyes studying the infant Azurian. The Thorn Dominion will not abandon their objective easily, and there are elements within your own species who fear these developments. Terra first, Milo said grimly. Indeed, fear manifests in all species when confronted with change, Vril observed. But there is also hope. The emergence of this child represents more than the continuation of Azurian lineage. It represents a new possibility, the integration of Azurian crystal resonance capabilities with human emotional intelligence. Neither of your species will remain unchanged by this bond. He gestured toward the infant. Already his crystalline structures show patterns unprecedented in historical Azurian records. More adaptive, more responsive. a hybrid resonance that incorporates elements of human vocalization, evolution, and action. Saren looked down at the small blue being in her arms. Kieran had fallen asleep, his crystalline growths pulsing gently in rhythm with her heartbeat. "I just sang to him," she said softly. "I didn't intend to change galactic history." "The most profound changes," Vril replied, "often begin with the simplest acts of compassion." 5 years passed since the first Azurian emergence. Terra had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. All 16 geodes had successfully emerged, each young Azurian imprinting on the human who sang to them during birth. The medical center had become both a nursery and a cultural exchange hub, with Azurian warriors serving as protectors while learning from human caregivers. The initial legal challenges from Terra First had been defeated in court, though the movement continued to advocate for limiting extraterrestrial influence. A minority of humans remained concerned about the implications of such close ties with a warrior species, but public opinion had shifted dramatically when footage of the young Azurians playing with human children went viral across global networks. The galaxy watched with a mixture of trepidation and fascination. Azurian tactical vessels continued to arrive in Terra's orbit, abandoning contracts and previous allegiances. They came to witness the young ones, to offer protection, and to acknowledge the humans who had saved their future. What began as a medical emergency had evolved into the beginnings of a cultural renaissance, as older Azurians began sharing forgotten traditions with their young. Milo had become the primary coordinator between the Azurians and Terra's governments, his medical role expanding to include cultural and diplomatic responsibilities. Today, he was meeting with Prime Sentinel Axura, leader of the largest Azurian fleet. The towering alien wore ornate battle armor inlaid with crystalline fragments inscribed with symbols representing victories across the stars. "Your defensive measures remain insufficient," Axura stated bluntly, examining the holographic security display in Milo's office. "Thorn Dominion operatives have been detected in 3 Terran cities. They formulate strategy beyond direct military action now, seeking to turn human population against Azurian presence." Milo nodded, reviewing the intelligence reports. The Thorn Dominion had not abandoned their objective after their first failed attack, but had shifted to more subtle approaches, funding Terra First activities, spreading misinformation, and attempting to disrupt the growing human-Azurian cultural exchange. "Our counterintelligence teams are tracking their activities," Milo assured him, "and public support for the Azurian integration program continues to grow, especially since the young ones began demonstrating their harmonic abilities in public concerts." Those concerts had been a turning point in human-Azurian relations. When 5-year-old Kieran and the other young Azurians had performed their first crystal song for a human audience, the effect had been profound. The harmonic resonances they produced, a blend of traditional Azurian patterns with human musical influences, created effects that listeners described as transcendent, healing, even life-changing. "The young ones develop abilities beyond traditional Azurian capacity," Axura acknowledged, a note of wonder in his usually stern voice. "Their crystal formations show unprecedented complexity and responsiveness. The human influence has enhanced what was nearly lost." "They're merging the best of both cultures," Milo agreed. "Kieran asked me yesterday why Azurians stopped singing and started fighting. He wants to be both a warrior and a crystal singer when he grows up." Axura was silent for a moment, crystal formations pulsing thoughtfully. "Perhaps this was always the path. Our oldest legends speak of a time when Azurians would find the lost harmony among the stars. Many interpreted this as returning to our homeworld. Perhaps it meant finding complementary resonance in another species instead." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Milo's communication device. "It's from the education center. We should head there. The children are preparing for the Harmony ceremony." The Harmony ceremony was a new tradition, developed jointly by humans and Azurians. It formally recognized the bonds between the young Azurians and their human caregivers, establishing them as cluster families in the eyes of both cultures. Today would be the first public ceremony, attended by dignitaries from both Terra and various galactic powers. As they made their way through the sanctuary complex, now expanded into a thriving cultural center, Milo observed how seamlessly humans and Azurians now worked together. What had begun as an emergency medical intervention had evolved into something far more profound, a genuine cultural exchange that was changing both species. They reached the ceremony hall where preparations were underway. The young Azurians, now the size of human 10-year-olds, though only 5 years old, were practicing their ceremonial crystal songs. Each stood beside their human cluster parent, creating harmonies that caused their crystal formations to glow with intricate patterns. Kiran, tallest among the young ones, stood beside Saran Ash. His crystalline growths had developed into elegant formations that extended from his shoulders and along his spine, more intricate and varied than those of adult Azurians. When he sang, they shimmered with internal light that changed color with the emotional quality of the music. "Milo," he called out, his voice carrying harmonic overtones that created a sense of welcome. "Come listen to our new composition. We've incorporated elements of classical Terran music with Third Dynasty Azurian resonance patterns." Milo approached, smiling at the young Azurian's enthusiasm. Where adult Azurians tended to be reserved and formal, the children raised with human influence displayed a blend of Azurian discipline and human expressiveness that was entirely new. "Let's hear it," Milo encouraged. Kiran nodded to the other children, and they began to sing. The harmonic patterns they created seemed to fill the air with visible resonance. Not just sound, but something that could be felt throughout the body. The crystal formations on their bodies pulsed and shimmered in coordinated patterns, creating visual harmonies that complemented the auditory experience. Several human observers wiped tears from their eyes, moved by the performance. Even Aksura, the battle-hardened warrior, stood transfixed, his own crystal formations unconsciously responding to the children's song. As the performance concluded, Director Wei approached, accompanied by Ambassador Vril and a delegation of diplomatic representatives from various species. "Magnificent," Wei said to the children. "You'll certainly make an impression at the ceremony." Vril's forearms moved in a pattern of appreciation. The harmonics they produce already exceed anything recorded in historical archives of Azurian crystal song. The integration of human emotional expression with Azurian resonance technology creates something neither species could achieve alone. A tall, angular alien with thorn-like protrusions, the first Thorn Dominion representative to visit Terra since the failed attack years ago, studied the children with a complex expression. The Dominion continues to have concerns about this development, but we acknowledge the beauty of what has been created here. Kiran approached the Thorn representative without fear, his crystal formations shifting to a more formal, diplomatic pattern. "We understand your concerns, Representative Thorax. Our history includes conflict, but perhaps new harmonies can be found between our peoples as well." The Thorn diplomat seemed taken aback by the young Azurian's direct but peaceful approach. "You are not what we expected from Azurian offspring. We are something new," Kiran replied simply. "As our caregivers taught us, evolution requires adaptation. The future need not be bound by the conflicts of the past." Saren placed a hand proudly on Kiran's shoulder, and he leaned slightly into her touch, a gesture that displayed the depth of their bond. "He's been studying diplomatic history," she explained. "He wants to understand all perspectives, not just the Azurian viewpoint." Thorax inclined his thorned head slightly. "Impressive. The Dominion will observe these developments with renewed interest." As the diplomats moved away to continue their tour, Milo found himself standing beside Corvin, who had been watching from a distance. "Did you ever imagine this outcome?" Milo asked quietly. "When you brought those geodes to our docking bay?" Corvin's silver eyes followed the young Azurians as they returned to their practice. "Hoped, did not dare expect. For centuries, Azurians knew only decline, forgetting more of our true nature with each generation. Now," he gestured toward the children, "now we remember who we were meant to be, not just warriors but creators of harmony." "They'll change both our worlds," Milo observed. "Already have," Corvin replied. "Look." He pointed to where several adult Azurians were working with human musicians, their crystal formations beginning to show signs of renewed receptivity, the beginning of a cultural awakening among the older generation. "Crystal formations hardened with warrior training lose resonance receptivity," Corvin explained, "but proximity to young ones, exposure to human music, awakens what was suppressed. Slow process, but possible." "Regeneration," Milo realized. "Cultural and physical." Corvin nodded. Azurian elders arriving daily now, not just to protect, but to remember, to hear songs they had forgotten could exist. Later, as the formal harmony ceremony began, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to witness this unprecedented cultural event. The ceremony hall had been transformed with crystalline decorations that amplified the harmonic resonances, creating an immersive experience for all present. The 16 young Azurians stood in a circle with their human cluster parents. At the center, a crystalline formation grew from the floor, a living sculpture created by the children as a symbol of the human-Azurian bond. Kieran stepped forward as spokesperson for the young ones. His crystalline growths glowed with a steady blue light as he addressed the assembly. 5 years ago, two species who had never met faced extinction and loneliness. Through an act of compassion, we found each other. Today we honor the bonds that have formed, not just between individual humans and Azurians, but between our cultures. He turned to face Seren. In the tradition of both our peoples, we now formally recognize the cluster bonds that unite us. Not as replacement for family, but as expansion of it. The harmony we create together is stronger than either could produce alone. One by one, each young Azurian approached their human caregiver. Taking their hands, they sang a personalized crystal song that caused their formations to resonate in patterns unique to each pair bond. The crystalline sculpture at the center responded to each song, adding new facets and colors that represented each relationship. When Kieran sang to Seren, his crystal formations produced a resonance so pure that many in the audience felt tears forming. The bond between them was palpable, a connection that transcended species differences to create something new and profound. As the ceremony concluded, the assembled diplomats and representatives approached to offer congratulations and recognition. Even the Thorn representative seemed moved, his earlier suspicions softened by the genuine beauty of what he had witnessed. Ambassador Vril approached Milo after the ceremony, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the crystalline lights. The Assembly's calculations have adjusted. The probability of positive outcomes has increased significantly. Due to the ceremony? Milo asked. Due to what it represents, Vril corrected. The young ones are developing abilities neither species possessed independently. Their resonance capabilities show potential applications in healing, communication, even space travel. They represent an evolutionary leap forward, one that could benefit the entire galactic community. He gestured toward where Kieran was explaining some aspect of crystal resonance to a fascinated group of human and alien scientists. That young one in particular. His crystal structures show configurations we've never observed before. He may be capable of harmonics that could revolutionize interstellar communication. He wants to be a diplomat, Milo said with a smile, to help species find harmony, as he puts it. A worthy aspiration, Vril observed, and perhaps exactly what this galaxy needs. In orbit above Terra, hundreds of Azurian vessels maintained a protective formation. They were no longer scattered mercenaries, but united protectors with a shared purpose. Within the fleet, something unprecedented was occurring. Crystal formations were being integrated into the ship's structures, allowing them to respond to harmonic commands. Azurian technology was evolving, incorporating elements of their rediscovered heritage with modern capabilities. Across the stars, the news continued to spread. The most nurturing beings in the galaxy had earned the trust and loyalty of the Deadliest. Together, they were creating something neither could have achieved alone, a new harmony that held the potential to reshape galactic relations. As the celebration continued late into the night, Milo found himself on an observation deck overlooking both the ceremony hall and the stars above. Corvin joined him, the warrior's usually stern features softened by the events of the day. Old harmonies change, he said quietly, looking up at the stars where Azurian ships patrolled protectively. New harmonies begin. Terrans saved our young, our heritage, our future. He turned to Milo, placing a formal hand on the human's shoulder in a gesture of profound respect. Now together we create possibilities neither imagined alone. Milo nodded, watching as human and Azurian children played together below, their laughter and crystal songs blending into something beautiful and entirely new. What had begun as a simple act of medical compassion had evolved into a symphony of possibilities, a reminder that across the vast differences of species and stars, Connection and care could create harmonies powerful enough to change worlds.